Why you should learn web development. Choosing a career is never easy. You may want to find a profession that is suitable for your interests and abilities. So, what about web development? Is it a good career choice or should you check out other options? The answer is yes. Web development is still an excellent career choice. Let's take an in-depth look at web development. Web development is the process of building a website, right from designing to implementing to maintaining it. This is all the coding work that goes into the creation and maintenance of a website. According to the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, the employment of web developers and digital designers is projected to grow 13% from 2020 to 2030, faster than the average for all occupations. There are three main types of web development: front-end, back-end, and full-stack. Front-end web developers deal with the parts of a website that users interact with. The most common programming languages they use are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to code all of the website's visual elements, making sure that the site is interesting and user-friendly. And back-end web developers use advanced programming languages such as Java, Python, PHP, ASP, and the other languages along with frameworks to code and maintain the website's database, server, and applications. And full-stack web development is a combination of both front-end and back-end development, incorporating aspects of both types. We have 6 top reasons for learning web development. This is simple and easy to learn. Creative and expanding field. Work from where you want. Lots of freelance opportunities. Have the ability to create unique websites. And your earnings are potentially huge. Front-end development is the practice of making technology, products, or websites visually appealing and presented in an intuitive way. This is a fantastic career path in technology. New front-end developers have a massive opportunity ahead as the world becomes more technology-driven, and becoming a successful front-end developer has its challenges like any other career. Alright, are you ready to learn how to build modern websites with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript? So let's get started with this course. Now let's dive into front-end development and take a look at HTML, CSS, and JavaScript structure. As we all know, HTML is a language of the web. It's used to design the web pages, or we can say structure the page layouts of a website. It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's not a programming language, it's just a markup language. Hypertext means that the document contains links that allow the reader to jump to the other places in the document or to another document altogether. The latest version is known as HTML5. And a markup language is a way that computers speak to each other to control how text is processed and presented. This is an example of HTML structure. The following code is HTML elements. This is how most of them look. In the context of the full page, you're going to have hundreds of HTML elements. Most of them have opening and closing tag, but some elements have just an opening tag, like IMG. The next one is element name. Div is the most usable tag in the web development and is known as division tag. It's used to make divisions of content in the web page, like text, icons, images, navigation bar, and etc. Tags are always enclosed in angle brackets. The next is attributes. They are into HTML elements, and class is the example of many attributes you can use. They define the properties of the elements such as height of an image or font size and anything like this. Then we have a value of an attribute or class name. You can use the value in CSS to style the element. And the last one is content. It will be shown on the web browser, and you can adjust the color, background, font size, and other properties in CSS by defining the value of attribute. CSS or cascading style sheets is a style sheet language used to describe the presentation of a document written in HTML. It's used to style and organize the layout of web pages. It allows you to create awesome web page. You can add color, font, border, background image, and the other properties to web documents. The latest version of CSS is known as CSS3. This is what CSS essentially looks like. These lines are root sets. In the full website, you may have hundreds of them, and CSS is nothing without HTML. The first part of a root set is a selector. You can add the class name of the element you're trying to style by writing period and then the class name or value of attribute. So, before the class name, you have to put a period. Period means class attribute. You can also use an ID selector to style HTML elements. However, it's only able to change one element, but a class selector can style more than one element. Then you can have a lot of declarations into the root set. CSS declaration is an abstract concept not exposed as an object in the DOM or document object model. It represents a CSS property and value pairing. Property is a part of declaration. This is a characteristic whose related value defines one aspect of how the web browser should show the element. Depending on the property, the value can include a single integer or keyword to a series of keywords and values with or without units. So if you want to use a class, use a period followed by the class name in a style block. Next, use a bracket called the declaration block that contains the property and the value. JS or JavaScript is the world's most popular programming language of the web. It's a powerful programming language that can add interactivity to a website and make the web page alive. This is a scripting language that enables you to make dynamically updating content, control multimedia, animate images or icons, and much more. The programs in this language are called scripts. They can be written in a web page's HTML or in an external script file and run automatically as the page loads. There are a lot of versions of JavaScript. ECMAScript is the official name of the language and the versions have been abbreviated to ES. So we have ES1 till ES12. A new version is released every year. ECMAScript is a standards organization called European Computer Manufacturers Association. It's a specification and JavaScript is an implementation and is implementing all the versions that are specified by ECMAScript. Now there is an example of JavaScript structure. First, we have an HTML element with ID attribute. The difference between ID and class is that ID is used for one element, but class is used for one or more than one element. Then demo is the value that will be used in CSS or JavaScript, and it should be into a quotation mark. It's supposed to change the content of HTML element, and I'm going to use JS code by writing, opening, and closing script tag into HTML file. This is typically referred to JavaScript code. Next is document. Document is an object that provides access to all HTML elements of a document. When an HTML document is loaded into a browser, then it becomes a document object. It stores the elements of an HTML document, such as HTML tag, head tag, body tag, and other tags as objects. GetElementById is a method. It's one of the most common methods in the HTML DOM or document object model. It's used almost every time you want to read or edit an HTML element. So the document.getElementById method returns an element object that displays an HTML element with a specified ID. Next is inner HTML. This is a property that returns the HTML content of an element. The easiest way to change the content of an HTML element is by using the inner HTML property. And by is the content. When you run the page, it will be displayed on browser instead of hello. So simply we've changed the content by using this line of JavaScript. First of all, you need an editor for coding. There are several code editors like Sublime Text, Atom, NetBeans, Dreamweaver, Visual Studio Code, and the others. And I highly recommend Visual Studio Code or VS Code because it supports many programming languages such as PHP, Python, JavaScript, ASP, and anything like that. So let's go to Visual Studio Code website. and type code visualstudio.com and press enter. Scroll down to download this program. You can see a different version of VS Code. This is for Mac, this is for Linux, and this is for Windows. Now I press on Windows button to download it. Okay, I've already downloaded it, so I want to install it. Okay, press on it. I click on I accept the agreement and then press next. Choose the default address that is in my system and then press next, then next. Okay, create a desktop icon. Yes, I want it, so click on it, and I don't want the other options. So next and install. Alright, now run Visual Studio Code Editor, and this is the environment of this program. It's a great code editor and it has many capabilities. Visual Studio Code is a lightweight but powerful source code editor which runs on your desktop and is available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. It comes with built-in support for JavaScript, TypeScript, and Node.js, and has a rich ecosystem of extensions for other languages like C#, Java, Python, PHP, and the other languages. We have top and popular extensions in this code editor. So press on Extension folder, and you can see installed option that your install extensions will show here, but we don't have anything right now. And next part, you can see popular extensions. We're going to use Live Server because when I'm coding, I want to see the result at the same time. Okay, Live Server, launch a development lookup server with live reload feature for static and dynamic pages. When you use Live Server, you can see the result in browser beside your code editor, and it helps you to see the result at the same time. Okay, install this extension, and after installing, you can see Go Live at the bottom of this page. So when you're coding, you can press on Go Live and see the result in the browser beside your code editor. Okay, in installed option, you can see Live Server shown here. And next extension I'm going to use is Emmet. Okay, so search for Emmet. I want to install Emmet Live. Emmet expands your Emmet abbreviations dynamically. Emmet helps you to code faster. Okay. No need to write your code letter by letter, and after you install it, you can use these extensions. Close this tab and return to Explorer and go to File and Preferences and then Keyboard Shortcuts. You can see keyboard shortcuts here, and for example, for copy your line, you can press Ctrl Insert or Ctrl C, or when you copy your line to the next line or previous line, you can press Shift Alt with up arrow or down arrow. You can see the other shortcuts and learn about them and use in your codes. Then close your tab. To take the first step in web development, it's better to design your web page or website into Figma or Adobe XD. I'd rather to use Figma. It's a powerful design tool and is a web-based graphics editing. So you can design the layout of your web page into Figma and then implement it to code editor and run in browser. This is a UI or user interface and UX or user experience design application that you can use it to create websites, apps, logos, and much more. UI and UX skills are essential for building a great portfolio for yourself and potentially for your own company. I've already designed my web page into Figma, and you can design your website by using these tools at the top of Figma like region tools, shape tools, drawing tools, text, or adding plugins like icons, animation, codes, color palettes or gradient colors, and much more things you can use. These are two color palettes that include this blue color. This is my logo that is located in the left, and this is menu, and sign up button is located in the right of the menu. And it's gonna work like this. When I click on each image, that will be turning to the left and getting bigger into a circle. So I will explain about how to design your web page or application or something else into Figma in next courses. Now we're going to try our hands at coding and start our design in VS Code. After you run Visual Studio Code, you can see Open Folder. Press on it and create a folder named Code or Landing Page or something else you want. You can also create a folder indirectly in your system and then open it from File, Open Folder. You can import that folder into VS Code. Okay, after you make a folder, click on this icon, it's a new file, and then type index.html. This page is just for HTML tags. So write HTML:5. You can see default codes of HTML documents and press tab on your keyboard. If you're a beginner in HTML, all these codes at the top of HTML documents has a specific purpose. And because we're using Visual Studio Code Editor, this part of HTML document is usually inserted for you. Mostly, the information found at the top of an HTML document before the body tag doesn't display on web pages, but they are necessary for defining an HTML document. I will describe a little about these lines. The first tag is doctype HTML. It's an angle bracket and then an exclamation point with doctype HTML. This tag is required for HTML5 and should always be the very first thing in your HTML document. It helps the browser know which version of HTML you're using. Doctype HTML doesn't have closing tag. Next line is HTML. HTML has opening and closing tag. This is an essential tag in HTML documents. You'll put all of your code for the page within this tag so the browser will know where your HTML is beginning and ending. And the last tag on your page should be closing HTML. It's /HTML. And it has an attribute called lang. Lang is language and en is value, that is English. That tells the browser what language your content is in, which also helps search engines direct users to the pages in their languages. If you speak a language other than English or want to use another language, go to W3 School website and see the complete list of languages. The next tag is head. Head of your HTML document contains a lot of information for not only the browser, but for search engines. With this tag, you will find keywords, descriptions, title, and meta tags. Everything in this tag won't be displayed in the browser, except the title tag. And we have 3 lines of meta tags. In HTML5, meta tags are considered void elements, meaning they can't have any content, so there's no closing tag necessary. Meta tags help search engines find your site and provide information about your web page. The attribute is character set, that is abbreviated to char set. You almost always use the attribute UTF-8, which is Unicode or the universal alphabet. This is a set of characters that cover almost all writing systems in the world. This attribute will make it possible for your special character like accents, quotations, or even hyphens. The next meta tag will offer the search engine's descriptions of your website. You can add a meta tag line, and instead of description in name attribute, you can write author, and then in a content attribute, you can write your name. So this meta tag allows web authors to choose what version of Internet Explorer the page should be rendered as. And the Internet Explorer here is Edge or Microsoft Edge that tells Internet Explorer to display content in the highest mode available. And the next tag tells the browser that the width of the screen should be considered the full width of the page, no matter the width of the device you're on, whether on desktop or mobile. The website will follow the width of the device the user is on. It's related to responsive design. Next tag is title. This is the title of your page. Title is the only element required to be in the head. The title usually shows up in the browser's title bar and would be the default name for bookmarks. And I want to write here landing page. That will be shown in the browser title bar. Next thing is the link tag. You need to link to your CSS file. You can style your elements by adding styles directly in your HTML document. But if you're working on a website with a lot of elements and pages, you will have a CSS file or folder that is external, and you need to tell your HTML5 to access it. The link element for CSS has href attribute that tells the browser where to find the file, and type attribute that tells the browser what the file is, and rel attribute tells what the relationship to the linked file has to the file it's in now. In HTML5, type attribute is no longer essential because the default value is text/CSS. And then we use head closing tag. The final tag that is urgent for an HTML document is the body tag. Here's where you will add all your content that the user will see, like the header, navigation, images, icons, paragraphs, and etc. Don't forget to always close the body tag before you close your HTML tag. Okay, now you're getting a little familiar with the HTML5. Now we should make a container for the whole web page. So I want to use div. Div is a division and it's used to make divisions of content in the web page. That is block level tag and is a generic container and it's used to the group of various tags of HTML. So that sections can be created and style can be applied to them. And then I want to define an attribute that specifies one or more class names for an HTML document. And the value I want to put wrapper. Wrapper allows you to center content within a web page. This requires CSS. You can style wrapper in CSS to make it work. And so we have to style it and give it height, width, and other properties. Remember to close each tag. When you open a tag, then close it at the same time. But in this code editor, VS Code does it automatically. Now as you see my design on web page, first we have a header that includes a logo and menu. So I write header tag and press enter to write the other tags into header. It's used to define the header for a document or a section as it contains the information related to the title and heading of the related content. It usually contains H1 to H6 element, H group element. You can define an attribute for header, like ID, or you don't have to put an attribute. So into header, I have to consider my logo and the menu. I want to define an image that is on SVG format. So we're going to put my logo by using img or image tag that is used to add image inside web page or website. And I've already saved my logo in images folder and write src that is used to specify the path to the image by writing images/logo.svg. That means logo is into images folder. And then write alt, that means alternative, and it's used to specify an alternate text for the image. And it informs the user about what the image means, and also if the image cannot be displayed, then this alternate text will be shown. And I want to put my logo into a element that is used to create a hyperlink on the web page. This is for linking the web page to the other web pages. But you don't have to put anything. That means nothing's gonna happen. It's just the link that when you click on a logo, it redirects to the same website or the whole website will refresh. And then we're going to consider our menu and define navigation tag or nav tag that is used for declaring the navigational section in HTML documents. This is reserved for primary navigation areas like the main menu across the top of the page or section. The document may have several nav elements. And then by using unordered list tag, you will see the words on the menu are connected to each other. So type UL tag, the unordered list item in an HTML document. It contains the list items LI element. LI tag is used to show an item in a list and it must be contained in a parent element, an ordered list or OL, an unordered list or UL, or a menu. In unordered lists, list items are usually indicated using bullet points. And in ordered lists, they are usually indicated with an ascending contour on the left, such as a number or letter. The menu options should be as a link. So I put A element into LI and content should be in A tag. I want to write 5 options with sign up button. So I choose this line. I press Shift Alt on the keyboard with down arrow and repeat it 5 times. The last one is for sign up button. Write the contents or menu options in each line into A tag. First one is home. Second, courses, and then services. Fourth one is about us and contact us. And the last one is sign up. I want to define a class for this sign up and put the value btn. This is abbreviated of button. So this is navigation closing tag and then close header tag. Okay, this is the header of our web page. Now it's better to style these lines in CSS. So create a folder named CSS and then right click on CSS and press new file, write style.css or you can write main.css. If you want to have a big website, you may have several CSS files here. Now we have to call CSS file into HTML. So in href attribute in link element, we should write the path of our CSS file that is into CSS folder. So write css/style.css. It means style.css file is into CSS folder and it should be inside the double quotes. Okay, in this file, you will write your CSS codes. Also, we have comments. They are the statements in your code. They won't be displayed in the browser and they're not executed. They used to explain the code. They can be in single line or multi-lines. And they are different in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In HTML, it's like this. An exclamation point with 2 dashes, and then the comment, and 2 dashes again into an angle bracket. And in CSS, comments are between 2 slash with 2 stars. It's like this. And in JavaScript, before the comments, it will be 2 slash. Also, they have no effect on the layout of a document. Okay, now write our CSS codes. The first thing I want to use in CSS is asterisk. It's known as a CSS universal selectors. It's used to select all types of elements in an HTML page. This selector is useful when we want to select all the elements on the page. Okay, I want to put some properties. Margin, colon, 0, and semicolon. This is a declaration. After each declarations, you have to put semicolon. Next property is outline, colon, none. And also box sizing. The value is border box. And then close the brace or accolade. Margin is the space around an element. They are used to move an element up or down on a page and left or right. This property has 4 values: margin top, margin right, margin bottom, and margin left. That can also use 2 values. The first value is margin top and bottom, and the second is margin left and right. When margin is 0, that means there is no space around the element. The outline property allows drawing a line around the element outside the border, and it's used to set all the properties of the outline in a single declaration. Here, outline is none, and that means there is no line around the element. Next property is box sizing that defines how the user should calculate the total width and height of an element. It has 2 values, content box and border box. Border box tells the browser to account for any border and padding in the values you specify for an element's width and height. Now I want to put a font for the whole page. So write body tag. You can write each tag or element by just element name without any period or number sign. Then write font family to specify font for the whole page. Then I choose interfont, comma, sans serif. The font family property is used to set the font of the text in HTML document, and there are many fonts available to choose, like Google Fonts, Adobe Fonts, and etc. Generic font families mainly come under this list, like serif, sans serif, cursive, monospace, and fantasy. Sans serif's style is modern, formal, and simple in appearance, but it doesn't have a stroke at the end. It has a wide range of use, but most often in the digital form of the text. But serif is mostly used when text is written for printing purpose, like books, newspaper, magazine, and etc. After color, the font is probably the most basic property of the page. Then I want to style the main div, that its class name is wrapper. So I write period, wrapper, and braces. Then I want to write position is relative. The position property is used to align the different elements in the HTML page. There are 5 values in position. First is static, that is default, relative, absolute, fixed, and sticky. This property can help you manipulate the location of an element. The positioned element means element having position property other than static. And in relative value, the element remains in the normal flow of the content, but left, right, top, and bottom effects. Elements get shifted from their original position in the document, creating empty space, and other elements may adjust themselves according to the empty space left by the element. And define height 100 VH. VH is viewport height, and it's based on the height of the viewport. A value of 1 VH is equal to 1% of viewport height. I'd like to give a brief idea about the CSS measurement units. CSS supports a number of measurements including absolute units such as inches, centimeters, points, and so on, as well as relative measurements such as percentages and EM or element units. You need these values while specifying various measurements in your style rules. The numeric type you will come across most frequently is length. There are 2 types of length used in CSS, relative and absolute. And it's important to know the difference in order to understand how big things will become. px or pixel and pt or points are all absolute length units. They are not relative to anything else and are generally considered to always be the same size. pt defines a measurement in points and pixel defines a measurement in screen pixels. px is one of the most common length units in CSS. em, rem, vw, and vh are relative length units. They are relative to something else, perhaps the size of the parent element's font or the size of the viewport. The benefit of using relative units is that with some careful planning you can make it, so the size of text or other elements scales relative to everything else on the page. em means element, font size of the parent in case of typographical properties like font size, and font size of the element itself in case of other properties like width. And rem is root element, font size of the root element. Root element is not affected by the size or setting of a parent element and is instead based on the root of the document. For websites, the root of the document is the HTML element. em and rem are the two relative lengths you're likely to encounter most frequently when sizing anything from boxes to text. And the differences between them, especially when you start getting onto more complex subjects like styling text or CSS layout. vw is 1% of the viewport's width, and vh is 1% of viewport's height. When you set the width 100 vw or 100% of the viewport's width, it will take up the full width available to it. And percent defines a measurement as a percentage relative to another value, typically an enclosing element. It's used for example, for font size or line height or something else. Then I want to style header tag. So write header in CSS with braces or accolades. As you see, I've designed the header in Figma. I want to write width 70%. If you want to see the range or the area of header tag, you can define border property and see the range of header. The first value, I want to put 1 pixel and then a space, solid, red for example. You can define another color. Border is like a rectangle. The first value is 1 pixel, is the thickness of the line, and solid means indicating a single, straight, and solid line. It can be dotted or dashed. And the next value is the color. You can define another color instead of red for border. Then I want to put the header at center, so I define margin. The first value is 0. That means the margin of header should be 0 from top and bottom. And the next value is auto. That means margin of header should be auto from left and right, where auto means that the left and right margin are automatically set by the browser based on the container to make elements centered. Then I want to define display flex, align items center, and justify content space between. These three properties should be together. Display property is used to define the display of the different parts of a web page. That defines how the components are going to be placed on the web page. The value here is flex. I'm going to use flexbox, and it's used to display an element as a block level flex container. Flex property in CSS is the combination of flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis property, and it's used to set the length of flexible items. This property is much responsive and mobile friendly. The flexbox property is used to set the content to vertical align. The text content can be aligned vertically by setting the properties like align items, justify content, and flex direction. Align items and justify content are the important properties to absolutely center text horizontally or vertically. That center value in align items means the item should be in center, and a space between is for justify content. That means between contents should be a space. Now we can run the page and see the result in the browser. Remember, before you run the page, you have to save your codes. You can go to File in your editor and press Save to save your codes, or press Ctrl S on the keyboard and then run the page. If you want to see the result at the same time, as I told you, press on Go Live at the bottom of the page and minimize the browser window next to VS Code editor, but pay attention that this screen is suitable for responsive design, mobile or iPad. But now I want to see the result in the browser full screen and define the responsive codes at the end of the course. Here we can see HTML tags, and we should style the menu that display it better in browser. And you can see the header by showing the border. Okay, return to editor. Okay, now I want to style the menu. I don't want to write any properties for nav. So define UL, but before UL, I should write header tag. So write header with a space and UL. It will show the browser that UL is into header tag. And write a property name list style is none. If you keep your mouse on each properties, you can see the definition of them. So list style allows you to set all the list style properties at once. And I put none because I don't want any items, and that means no item marker is shown. And like previous rule set, I want to put display flex for UL and align items center and justify content space around. The items are distributed within the alignment container along the main axis. I want to put space around. That means the items are distributed within the alignment container along the main axis, and the spacing between each pair of next items is the same. And the empty space before the start and after the last item equals half of the space between each pair of next items. Now press Ctrl S and see the result in the browser. You can see the bullets before items are gone because we wrote none for list style. This is the type of list style. Here we're gonna adjust li margin. Okay, write header, UL, and li. That means li is inside UL and UL is inside header. That the browser will understand this is list item. And I want to put margin as 0 space 0.4 rem. Rem is root element, a unit of measurement that displays the font size of a root element. That means 1 rem equals the font size of the HTML element that for most browsers have a default value of 16 pixels. The first value that is 0, that means the margin of li from top and bottom should be 0 and from right and left should be 0.4 rem. Okay, now see the result. You can see from right and left it's changed. I want to style the links into li. So define header and UL, li, a. I want to put none for text decoration. Text decoration adds an underline, overline, line through, or a combination of lines to selected text. I don't want any underline for the items. No line is drawn and any existing decoration is removed. I want to write letter spacing, the space between letters, 1 pixel. The next I want to write is font size, 20 pixel. This determines the size or height of the font. Then I want to put padding for items. The first I want to write 15 pixel, the padding from top and bottom. And second, for example, 20 pixel from right and left. Padding is the space between the element and the related content inside it, and it assigns how elements look and sit within a container. This photo is obviously show the padding around an element. It has 4 values. The first one is padding top, second padding right, then padding bottom, and padding left. They can have 2 values. The first one is for top and bottom, and the second is for right and left. Okay, now you can see here the padding applies to the items and there are space between them. The next thing I'm going to do is when I keep the mouse on the items or mouse over them, the background color is going to be blue and text color is going to be white. Now define header, UL, li, a, colon, hover. Hover selector is used to style elements when the mouse hovers over them, so it can be used on every element. Then I want to write color. The value is going to be hex code of the white color or hexadecimal code of white color. That is number sign with 3F. You can see hex code of colors in htmlcolorcodes.com website, and any website you know and find hex code, RGB or HSL about colors. Okay, next background color that I've already chosen it in Figma and copy hex code of this blue color and then paste it here. I want to write border radius for A. It's actually used to round the corners of the outer border edges of an element, and it can include 1, 2, 3 or 4 values like margin or padding. The first value is for top left, second top right, then bottom right and bottom left. So here I want to put border radius 20 pixel that round the corners from all sides. And write transition property. The first value is all. I want that transition will apply on all items. Smoothly that is ease with 0.3 seconds. That means when the mouse hovers over the items, the background color and text color will change by 0.3 seconds smoothly. Transition property allows you to change property values smoothly. We can use the transitions to animate the changes and make the changes visually appealing to the user and giving better user experience and interactivity. And there are 4 properties you should use here. First is transition property, transition duration, transition timing function, and transition delay. The first one is all, transition property. That is used to specify all the properties to be selected. Not all properties are animatable. Only the properties which are animatable will be influenced. The second is transition duration that allows you to determine how long it will take to complete the transition from one CSS property to the other. But we don't write transition duration here. Next is transition timing function. This is ease. That should be ease in, ease out, linear, and something else. This property allows you to determine the speed of the change and the manner of change during the transition. Like the change should be fast at the beginning and slow at the end. The last one is transition delay, and here is 0.3 seconds. This property allows you to determine the amount of time to wait before the transition actually starts to take place. So time should be in seconds or milliseconds. Now you can save your codes and run it or refresh the browser. You can see when the mouse is over them, they will change. Okay, next I want to style button. So write header, ul, li, a, and define the class name for sign up, that is btn. So define period btn without any space between a and btn. You can add multiple class name or element name in a selector like this. Or here you can write just period btn and style the sign up button. So I want to apply color and get it white with hexadecimal code of white color, and then define background color like this blue color. But I want to change padding for sign up. The first value will be the same 15 pixel, and the second, that will be padding of sign up button from right and left to 40 pixel. It will be like this. Okay, then use hover, that when the mouse is over it, the value of color and background color will be exchanged. But I want to put background color light blue. Then I want to create a submenu for courses and choose 3 items. So go to courses item in HTML, and before ending tag of li in this line, press enter, then write ul, and I want to put a class named submenu. Define li and a inside li, then copy this line twice. I want to write first content HTML, then CSS, and then JavaScript. Okay, this is my submenu and I want to style it. So go to CSS and write a comment that is submenu starts and press Ctrl/ on the keyboard. Okay, I want to put point submenu. Maximum width for submenu is going to be 200 pixel or 300 pixel as you wish. Here we can write min width instead of max width. And the value is going to be 200 pixel or 150 pixel. Then I want to write position absolute. Absolute elements don't follow normal flow document. Instead, they position themselves relative to the closest position ancestor. Its final position is determined using the top, bottom, left, and right. Background color white. And border radius 10 pixel. Then I want to put box shadow that adds shadow effects around an element's frame. And the first value I want to write is -2 pixel. That is horizontal offset of the shadow. And the second is going to be 2 pixel or 3 pixel. That is vertical offset of the shadow. And next I want to write 3 pixel. That is the blur radius. And the next value is the spread radius. And this is optional. I don't want to write this. Then the color. You can take any color value. This is like gray, dark gray. The box shadow property is used to give a shadow-like effect to the frames of an element. The multiple effects can be applied to the element's frame, which is separated by the comma. The box shadow can be described using X and Y offset relative to the element. blur, a spread radius, and color. The first value is edge offset, that is horizontal offset. It's required to set the position of the shadow horizontally. The position value is used to set the shadow on the right side of the box, and a negative value is used to set the shadow on the left side of the box. Next value is V offset or vertical offset. It's required to set the position of shadow value vertically. The position value is used to set the shadow below to the box, and a negative value is used to set the shadow above the box. Next value is blur. It's an optional attribute. The work of this attribute is to blur the shadow of the box. Next one is spread. It's used to set the size of the shadow, and the size of the spread depends on the value of the spread. And color is the other value that is optional attribute, and is used to set the color of the shadow. Next value is inset. By default, the shadow generates outside the box. By using inset, we can create a shadow inside the box. Or you can use initial. It's used to set the box shadow property to its default value. Also, we can use inherit. This property is inherited from its parent. And none is the default value, and it doesn't contain any shadow property. And you can see the result like this, but it's not still styled. So I define padding left to 0 and margin top to 15 pixels. Also, I want to put opacity to 0 and transition all submenu will transit 0.5 seconds smoothly. And z-index 1. This property controls the vertical stacking order of elements that overlap, and it only affects the elements that have a position value other than static. Minus values or negative values for z-index is for lowering the priority. Here you can also put 2. That will be over all the elements. And it should be with absolute position. I wrote opacity property for submenu that is going to be hide. You can also use the display none and block instead of opacity to hide the submenu. But now when I put the mouse over courses, the submenu is going to be shown. So write ULLI with hover and then period submenu. That means when the mouse hovers over the course, that is LI, the submenu will be shown. Now write opacity 1. And I want to put margin 20 pixels from top and bottom and 0 from right and left. The submenu items should be shown as a block like a column, so I add display property to submenu class and the value is going to be block. Then write li into submenu class and apply margin 0. Also, you can add border property to all row sets and see the exact range or area of each selector. Okay, now you can see the result. And I want to style a link inside li inside submenu class. And I want to put submenu items in a block box. So I write display block. That element generates a block element box, generating line breaks both before and after the element when in a normal flow. Display sets whether an element is treated as a block or inline element and the layout used for its children such as flay layout, grid, or flex. So I want to put 100% width to submenu links and font size 15 pixels and text align center. It sets the horizontal alignments of the inline level content inside a block element or table cell box, and center means the inline contents are centered within the line box. It can be right, left, justify, or something else. And I don't want any round corner for this part, so write border radius 0. So I'm supposed to do this. When I keep the mouse on the first submenu item, the corner of top left and top right will round. And for the last submenu item, the corner of bottom left and bottom right will round. That means border radius on the first item will be applied on top left and top right. After you create each element or each part, you can comment or remove border property. So I want to write submenu class name with li, colon, first child, space, A. That means when you mouse over the first item of submenu, the declaration of this selector will work. And first child selector allows you to target the first element immediately inside another element. And it means that it's used to style content based on its relationship with parent and sibling content. It refers to A, that is first child or first item of list item in submenu. So write border, top left, radius. It's like this. 10 pixel and border top right radius 10 pixel too. And as you see, the border radius in first item of submenu is like this. And then define last child for last item. Write submenu li colon last child and a. This refers to a, that is last child or last item of list item in submenu. Also, last child selector allows you to target the last element directly inside its containing element. So put border dash bottom dash left radius 10 pixel and then border bottom right radius 10 pixel. And you can see the result. This is like this. Okay, now I'm going to write submenu ends and comment it, that I can easily find submenu codes later. Now we're going to create a slider part. As you see here, we want 5 pictures like this. So return to index.html, and after header closing tag, I want to use section element. This element defines the section of documents contain chapters, headers, footers, or any other sections. And this is a semantic element that describes its meaning to both browser and developer. And I'm going to write ID attribute in section. That I said before, ID is a unique identifier that is used to specify the document and can be used by any HTML tag. And write the value, for example, home. The values should be related to contents of each element. And I want to use div tag into section that divide the content and define class attribute and name it slide wrapper. Okay, let's go to style CSS to style these 2 lines. The first thing I want to write here is comment, that slider starts, and press Ctrl/ on keyboard to comment it. Okay, now put section with home ID. So write number sign or hashtag home. And then I want to define some properties like height 650 pixel for the height of this part, and the background color, copy the color in Figma and paste it here. Okay, this is the hexacode of this color. Now let's see the result. Okay, this is section that is displayed with this background color. And now a style div with a slide wrapper class. Here I want to put width 70%. And the height, I want to write 70 VH, or the height of viewport. Also, you can define border to see the elements better. Then I want to use flex box. So write display flex with justified content and align items. For justified content, the value is going to be center, and align item is going to be stretch. That means items are stretched to fit the container, and it's the default value. Okay, as you see here, I want to make this div to be at center. So I want to write margin 0 space auto. That means margin of this element is 0 from top and bottom and auto from left and right. Where auto means that the left and right margin are automatically set by the browser based on the container to make elements centered. Then I want to write position relative, because I want space between header and the sliders. So put 50 pixel from top for div element or sliders. Okay, now let's add pictures or sliders into div. You can define another div for each picture or define article element. Article is one of the new sectioning element in HTML5. However, it's used to display an article, but on a page with a single piece of content, a single article element can be used to contain the main content and separate it from the rest of the page. But here I'm going to use div element for 5 pictures with class attribute and 2 values. The first value I want to write is a slider for 5 pictures, and the second class name of each pictures. The first line I write pic 1, then press Shift Alt with down arrow to copy it 4 times. And the second line pic 2, third line pic 3, fourth line pic 4, and fifth line pic 5. And a slider is common class for 5 pictures. Now let's style slider class by writing period slider and then define margin with 0 from top and 10 pixel from right, 0 from bottom, and 0 from left. Or instead of this declaration, you can define margin right 10 pixel. Okay, I want to add width and height of a slider. Height is going to be 100% and width will be 10% because each picture should be slender. And when I click on a picture, it will be getting bigger. And I'm going to define border radius 60 pixel to round the corners, and define cursor property pointer that is used to specify the mouse cursor to be displayed while pointing on an element, and the position should be relative. That means this property is positioned relatively with the other elements that are sitting at top of it. And then I want to define overflow property that controls the big content, and it tells whether to clip content or to add scroll bars. It can be visible, hidden, scroll, and auto. And I'm going to write hidden here. That means the overflow is clipped and the rest of the content is invisible. Overflow property controls the big content. It tells whether clip content or to add scroll bars. The overflow contains visible, hidden, scroll, and auto property. Visible means the content is not clipped and visible outside the element box. And hidden means the overflow is clipped and the rest of content is invisible. And a scroll means the overflow is clipped, but a scroll bar is added to see the rest of the content. The scroll bar can be horizontal or vertical. And auto means it automatically adds a scroll bar whenever it's required. Or you can use overflow X and overflow Y. This property specifies how to change an overflow of elements. X deals with horizontal edges and Y deals with vertical edges. And write transition for all slider elements and ease in out in 400 milliseconds. Now we're going to add pictures. So write slider class name with pick 1 till pick 5, or you can put just pick 1 selector without slider. If you have a big website, it's better to write the previous class name and then the main class name unit style. Into pick 1, I'm going to write background image property and then write URL and the path of the first picture. And background image sets one or more background images on an element. And inside the parentheses of URL, enter the path of first image. I've already created images folder and downloaded 5 pictures in images. So write images / plant1, that was the name of my first picture, .jpg. But because we are in style.css file inside CSS folder, we have to return by writing 2 points / and go to images folder and then choose plant1.jpg. Do it for the other pictures by copy the first line, repeat it 4 times, and then change the picture's name. The second is pic-2 and the picture is plant2. The third is pic-3 and plant3. And then pic-4 and plant4. Pic-5, plant5. Then save it and see the result. As you see here, the picture's position is not suitable or they repeat several times. And return to slider selector and write background position center space center. That is used to set the initial position for the background image and set an image at a certain position. Background image is placed default to the top left corner of an element with a repetition of both horizontally and vertically. Center space center, that means this property is used to set the image at the center position. And then write background size cover. Background size is used to set the size of background image. And cover is used to resize the background image to cover a whole container element. And I'm going to write background repeat, no repeat. The background repeat that is obvious by its name is used to repeat the background image both horizontally and vertically. And no repeat means this property doesn't repeat background image and it displays the background image only once. If you want to write something at the bottom of each picture, you can define another div inside picture div and write h3 or h4 for adding header or adding p for writing paragraph. But if you want to just write one title, you can define another div inside the div of each pictures and then h3 tag for adding header or p tag for adding paragraph. Okay, now let's move it by clicking on each item in JavaScript. Here, create a folder by clicking on this icon and write JS. And right-click on JS folder and press New File and type script.js or main.js. We will write script codes in JS file. In index.html, add a script tag. It's better to write it at the end of HTML tag, before body closing tag. So write script with attribute src, and the path of our JS file is into JS folder /script.js. In JavaScript, we're going to define some variables by writing const. This is constant, and this keyword defines a new variable, just like let keyword or var keyword. The difference in const variable declaration than others is that it can't be reassigned. And I want to add active class, then write the variable active class, and then the value is going to be active into a single quotation. JavaScript is a case-sensitive language. This means that the language keywords, variables, function names, and any other identifiers must always be typed with a consistent capitalization of letters. Then go to CSS file and style active class. Class name of pictures is a slider, so write period slider, then period active, that we defined it in JavaScript without any space. Then write the changes that's supposed to do. That means when you click on each picture, it will be changed and the picture will be active in web page. Now here I'm going to change the width from 10% to 50%. Then define border radius to 50%. And size of each picture will be changed. Then I want to use animation property to move the active item or active picture. Animation is the technique to change the appearance and behavior of various elements in web pages. Animation property is used to control the elements by changing their motions or display. It has two parts, one which contains the CSS properties which describe the animation of the elements, and the other contains certain keyframes which indicate the animation properties of the element and the specific time intervals at which those have to occur. The first one is animation name, that is used to specify the name of the keyframes describing the animation. And write move down. The second is animation duration, that is used to specify the time duration it takes animation to complete one cycle. It will be 1.5 seconds. And the next is animation timing function, that specifies how the animation makes transitions through keyframes. And its value can be ease, linear, ease in, ease out, or ease in out. For example, ease in means the animation plays with a slow start, and ease in out means the animation starts and ends slowly. The next property is animation delay, that is used to specify the delay when the animation starts. We have another property, animation iteration count, that is used to specify the number of times the animation will repeat. It can specify as infinite to repeat the animation indefinitely. And the next one is animation direction, that specifies the direction of the animation. And it can be normal, reverse, alternate, or alternate reverse. Alternate reverse means the animation is played backward first and then forward. You can write just alternate, that the animation is played forward first and then backward. Then write animation name in keyframe. Keyframes are the foundations with the help of which CSS animations work. They define the display of the animation at the respective stages of its whole duration. Keyframes rule is used to specify the animation rule. An animation is created by using changeable CSS styles. During the animation, CSS property can change many times, and we need to specify when there is a change in the style that takes place in percent or contains the keywords from and to, which is the same as 0% and 100%, where 0% displays the beginning of the animation and 100% displays the completion of the animation. And keyframe selector defines the percentage of the animation. It lies between 0% to 100%. One animation can contain many selectors. And CSS styles defines the one or more legal or applicable CSS style properties. So write @keyframes with animation name that was moved down, and then open the braces or accolade, then write from. Now you can write CSS styles and write transform translate y minus 15 pixel into a parenthesis. Transform is used to change the coordinate space of the visual formatting model, and it's used to add effects like rotate, translate, skew, and etc. on elements. And I've written translate y that specifies the translation across the y-axis only. So it will be moving minus 15 pixels across the y-axis. From specifies 0% and displays the beginning of the animation. And then write to and translate y 0 into a parenthesis. It specifies 100%, displays the completion of the animation. Okay, now I want to put another variable like images, and I'm going to capitalize this word. Const images equal document.querySelectorAll, and write the class name of pictures in HTML into a parenthesis, period slider. Remember to be in single quotation. If we want to apply CSS property to all the child nodes that match the specified selector, then we can just iterate through all nodes and apply that particular property. The querySelectorAll method returns all the elements within the document which matches the specified CSS selectors. It returns all the elements that matches with the selector in the form of a static node list object, which is a collection of nodes. Use document.querySelectorAll to return elements within the document that matches the specified group of CSS selectors. So we're using document.querySelectorAll to find the element which currently have the active class, then you can remove that class. You can use class list methods to add, remove, or toggle. So write images with array 0, point class list, point add with active class. You can use pure JavaScript element.classList to add and remove a class from your DOM element. Add means add a specified class values. If these classes already exist in attribute of the element, then they are ignored. And remove means remove specified class values. Now I want to use remove active class, then add it. So define a function. Function declaration or function statement consists of function keywords, like function name that I want to write remove active class with capitalized A and C for class. And you can take a list of parameters into parentheses and separate it by commas. But I don't want to write anything into parentheses, then enclose it in curly brackets or into braces. A function is a set of statements that take inputs, do some specific computation, and produces output. Basically, a function is a set of statements that perform some tasks or does some computation and then return the result to the user. The idea is to put some commonly or repeatedly done tasks together and make a function so that instead of writing the same code again and again for different inputs, we can call that function. Like other programming languages, JavaScript also supports the use of functions. Now define a variable name element or ELM. So write const ELM equals document.querySelector. QuerySelector method returns the first element within the document which matches the specified CSS selector. If multiple element occurs, then it returns the result for only the first matching element. And into parentheses, write $, an active class inside a curly brackets or braces, and the whole phrase should be in a back quotes. And $sign is JavaScript identifier, which just means that it identifies an object, and it's free to use in object name. And here we have back quotes or backticks that are an ES6 or ECMAScript 6 feature that allows you to create strings in JavaScript. This phrase should be inside back quotes. Then I want to put element variable in if statement that executes a statement if a specified condition is true. If the condition is false, another statement can be executed. If statement is the most simple decision-making statement. It's used to decide whether a certain statement or block of statements will be executed or not. If a certain condition is true, then a block of statement is executed, otherwise not. So write if and ELM into parentheses with a braces, and write ELM point class list point remove active class. Here we remove specified class values from the DOM element. This is the statement. Element point class list point remove, and into parentheses write your class name. Now I'm going to use event as a parameter for function, and function name is going to be add class. So write like this, JavaScript has events to provide a dynamic interface to a web page, and they are dependent to the elements in DOM or Document Object Model. Now I'm going to define a variable named target. The event would have info such as the coordinates of the click, the element on which you clicked, event, point target, and much more. So write const target equal $event point current target, a capital T. Current target property of the event interface identifies the current target for the event. It always refers to the element to which the event handler has been attached. Event point current target is used to return the current DOM element with the event bubbling phase. And this is interesting to use when attaching the same event handler to several elements. Then add a specified class value like the previous line in ELM, but here we write add instead of remove. So write target point class list point add active class. Before these two lines, we have to write $event point stop propagation and then remove active class. So we define remove active class, the previous function name, into this function, and then the next step will run. So this method is used to add a class name to a selected element. The event point stop propagation method is an inbuilt method in jQuery, which is used to stop the Windows propagation. In the DOM tree, when setting an event with a child element and the parent element as well, then if you hit on the child element event, it will call both child and the parent element as well. So with the help of this method, this pop-up will not appear for the other element except selected element. Now I want to use array for each method. So as we define images array, write images here, that is array point for each. It calls the provided function once for each element of the array. The provided function may perform any kind of operation on the elements of the given array. So write image with a row function that provide you with an alternative way to write shorter syntax compared to function expression. And JS doesn't allow you to have a line break between the parameter definition and the arrow in an arrow function. Image is callback. This parameter holds the function to be called for each element of the array. And open braces, and into this we're gonna write image point at event listener. This method attaches an event handler to the specified element. Also, image is an element, and into a parenthesis we're gonna write event function and use capture. Here we write an event in a single quote, click, and the function name add class. And the third parameter use capture is usually set to false, as it's not used. So this line tells you when you click on each picture, the stuff in add class function will run. Now we were supposed to see the result like this. Now we're going to make the web page responsive. It's a graphic user interface design approach used to create content that adjusts smoothly to various screen sizes like mobile, iPad, and the others. Designers size elements in relative units and apply media queries so their designs can automatically adapt to the browser space to ensure content consistency across devices. It will be a single flexible design that will be stretched or shrink to fit the screen. In our web page, we're going to change the menu in responsive view. I'm supposed to use a hamburger menu. Also, I want to change the rounded corner of each picture. So let's go to index.html. First, I want to use Font Awesome library to import hamburger menu. Okay, it's better to download Font Awesome file by going to Google and type Font Awesome icons, file, download, and go to this website, download Font Awesome Free or Pro. And this is the latest version. This is for the web and this is for the desktop. I need Font Awesome for the web. So press on Free for web and download it. Go to the file and then open CSS and copy all the CSS. Then paste it to CSS folder in our project. Go back to Font Awesome and copy Web Fonts folder and paste it in our project. To run Font Awesome icons, it requires to use Web Fonts folder. Okay, now let's go to index.html, define link element with rel attribute and also href attribute, and the path should be in CSS folder /all.css. That means when you write any icons, they are into all CSS file. Then return to Font Awesome website and click on icons and type menu. You can see different menu icons here. I want to use bars, so click on it. And I'm going to use a simple menu icons. So press on this line to copy it and then go to index.html, and after nav closing tag, paste the icon link. But I want the simple one, so delete solid and put this icon element into a div. And then style it in CSS by writing header tag period far bars, class name of I element. We have to write header tag before far bars because it represents that icon is into header. And put font size to rem or root element, and cursor is going to be pointer, and make it gray. So put color and hexacode of gray, for example #333, and I want to hide it, so put display none. Display property is used to specify whether an element exists or not on a website. You can go to browser and click F12 on keyboard. You can see DevTools here, and also different size of the screen for mobile, iPad, and the other devices. And I want to use media query to style web page in responsive view. That is used to create a responsive web design. It means that the view of a web page differs based on screen or media types. The breakpoint specifies for what device width size the content is just starting to break or deform. And it's used to check width and height of the viewport, width and height of the device, orientation, and resolution. So we're going to put max width based on screen size. The screen size for iPad, iPhone, Samsung, and the other mobile devices are different. I want to put max width 850 pixel. It means when the width of the screen is smaller than 850 pixel, the stuff I'm going to write here will be appeared. So first thing, I want to change the rounded corner of slider class. So write slider point active and property border radius to 20 pixel. I want that the hamburger menu will appear. So write header period far bars and put display block with z index 1. That means the element generates a block element box, generating line breaks both before and after the element when in a normal flow. And 1 for z index means the menu bar is over the other elements. Then style nav element for responsive design and put position fixed. Element with fixed positioning allows it to remain at the same position even when we scroll the page, and we can set the position of the element using top, right, bottom, and left. Then write height and set it to 80% and width to, for example, 70%. I'm going to move from top minus 100% and left to be 0, and box shadow 0 for horizontal offset, 1 rem for vertical offset, 2 rem for blur the shadow of the box, and then color is going to be #333 to be almost gray. And I'm going to write font weight to be bold. Font weight is used to set the width or thickness of the font being used with HTML text. And bold defines the bold font weight. It's equal to the number value 700. And background color is set to be white. Z index to be 1. It's going to be over the other items. And transition would be all. And easing, that is slow at start, with 0.4 seconds. And you can see obviously menu box by adding border, 1 pixel, solid, and color to be red. And I'm supposed to see the menu box, so I have to comment top property, left, and position in nav element. And this is a result. Write nav UL and set width to 100%, and position is going to be absolute, and padding left to be 0. that is padding of UL from left is 0. Also want to use flexbox. So write flex flow to column. Justify content, center, and align items, center. The flex flow property is sub-property of flexible box layout module and also shorthand property for flex wrap and flex direction. This is useless when the element is not flexible item. And the column is flex direction that makes item wrap in single lines. And the next value I didn't write is no wrap, that is default value of wrap flex. And it's used to specify that the item has no wrap. And the content and items could be at center. And set the margin for rem from top and bottom and auto from right and left. Also define nav, ul, li, and set margin 1.5 rem from top and bottom and auto from right and left. Then define nav, ul, li, a. To adjust font size 1 rem. You can set the color of menu items to black or something else you want. Then write start menu class and put position absolute with left 0. And I want to write width to be 150 pixel. And also to show the working of menu, I'm going to use jQuery library. Go to Google and type Google jQuery CDN. You can go to W3 School website and consider this line. To load a hosted library, copy and paste the HTML snippet for that library in your web page. For example, to load jQuery, enter this line snippet in your web page. So add it to HTML file. Then remove these properties from comments. Then go to script.js. I want to use document.ready. Ready method is an inbuilt method in jQuery which helps to load the whole page, then execute the rest code. And this method specifies a function to execute when DOM is fully loaded. And after ready, we have parentheses. And into parentheses, we have parameters. This method accepts single parameter function. It's used to specify the function to run after the document is loaded. So write function with a parenthesis, then open braces and press enter. Okay, write $sign and the class name of menu bar, period far bars into single quote inside parentheses, then point click. The click method triggers the click event or attaches a function to run when a click event occurs. And define another function, and the parameter here is another function that specifies the function to run when the click event occurs, and open another braces. Then write $this point toggle class with far times. That is the icon against menu bar. I mean closing icon. The class name here is far times that specifies one or more class names to add or remove. To specify several classes, separate the class names with a space. The toggle class method toggles between adding and removing one or more class names from the selected elements. This method checks each element for the specified class names. The class names are added if missing and removed if already set. This creates a toggle effect. And this here is a selector. jQuery selectors are one of the most important parts of jQuery library, and they allow you to select and manipulate HTML elements. So $this selects the current HTML element. And then write $, nav element as a selector, point toggle class, then nav toggle, that is class name I'm going to set in JavaScript, and style it in CSS. So let's go to CSS file to style nav toggle. Write period nav toggle, and I want to set top to 0. When you click on menu bar, the menu box will appear. And here in nav element, because we put transition to 0.4 second and put top to -100%, the menu box will display from top to bottom smoothly. Okay, this is the website we were going to design.